Today, I want to walk you through an argument that I've really spent a career developing. I call it investment principles, strategies for an irrational world. And it's all born from one pretty uncomfortable realization. In a world that is just awash with data and models, genuine strategic thinking has become incredibly scarce. This isn't about finding some new formula. It's about building a completely new framework for how we make decisions when we're facing uncertainty. Okay, so let's just dive right into the core thesis here. This one sentence, I think, captures the fundamental problem we're all facing. Our entire industry, well, it's mistaking calculation for actual comprehension. We build these elegant, beautiful models, we run these incredibly precise forecasts, and yet what happens? Capital just keeps flowing into the same crowded trades. And the result, predictably, is mediocrity. The problem isn't a lack of intelligence, not at all. It's a failure of approach. So, to really deconstruct this, we're going to walk through a pretty clear four-part argument. First, we'll tackle what I call the illusion of precision. Second, we'll talk about the necessity of synthesis. Third, we'll get into the psychology of it all with the discipline of contrarians. And finally, we'll land on why wisdom itself is the ultimate competitive edge. All right, so let's start with the foundational error of so much of modern finance, our obsession with this illusion of precision. This is really about getting to the bottom of why those elegant models we all learn to build just fail time and time again in the real complex world. Now, what's so fascinating here is the trade-off it exposes. See, precision, it offers comfort. It feels good. It takes this messy, ambiguous world and boils it down to a single number, a nice, clean output. But in doing that, it strips away reality. The truth, of course, is that markets are dynamic, they're complex adaptive systems. And by chasing the comfort of precision, we actually lose our grip on what's correct. This just captures the dilemma perfectly, doesn't it? I have seen countless brilliant analysts build absolutely flawless models that perfectly explain the past 5 years, only for them to be completely shocked when the next 5 look nothing like their spreadsheet. The model wasn't wrong. It was just a static photograph of a world that absolutely refused to stand still. And here's the crucial point. The problem isn't mathematical. It's epistemological. We have confused the act of measuring something with the much deeper act of understanding it. And that, right there, is the intellectual trap that underpins so much underperformance. So if simple models are the problem, then what's the solution? This moves us to our second part, and you'll see how this builds, the necessity of synthesis. This is all about shifting from a singular, narrow focus to a much more integrated, cross-disciplinary approach to finding insight. A truly robust view, it requires integrating insights from all of these different fields. Just think about it for a second. A single policy decision in one country can reprice assets across the entire globe. A behavioral narrative that catches fire on social media can move markets faster than a central bank. The problem is, most investors operate in just one or two of these silos, and then they're constantly surprised by the outcomes. And this just brilliantly illustrates that core idea. The edge isn't found in having more data points than the next person. The edge is found in the ability to connect disparate ideas, to synthesize information from completely different domains into a coherent worldview. That is where genuine wisdom is forged. But this kind of synthesis, it requires a totally different tempo. The market screams for fast thinking, right? It wants immediate conviction. It rewards the loudest opinions. I'm advocating for the exact opposite, a kind of conscious, intellectual slowness. The discipline to just sit with ambiguity, to resist that powerful urge to decide too quickly, that is one of the most powerful and, frankly, underrated skills in investing. Now, having a synthesized, non-consensus view is one thing. But having the fortitude to actually act on it, that's another thing entirely. And that brings us to part 3, the discipline of contrarians. This is really all about the psychology that's required for superior performance. Okay, it is absolutely critical to distinguish between just being contrary and being a disciplined, non-consensus thinker. Foolish contrarianism is easy. It's just reflexive opposition. You say up, I say down. But calculated non-consensus thinking, that is incredibly difficult. It means you have to rigorously identify why the consensus is wrong and then apply strict probability discipline, all while resisting just immense social pressure. This quote, I think, really gets to the heart of the experience. Acting against the crowd, it's not romantic, it's not heroic, it is psychologically brutal. You will be questioned, you will look wrong, sometimes for very long periods, and you will be utterly alone in your conviction. It is a state of controlled intellectual loneliness.
So what this means is that we have to reframe the entire objective of our analysis. The goal is not to find theses that make us feel smart or right. The goal is to hunt for dislocations, to ask, with humility and with rigor, where is the consensus most likely to be wrong? Because that is where mispricing and therefore opportunity lives.
This mindset also requires a completely new definition of risk. The industry obsesses over volatility, the movement of prices, but that's just a symptom. True risk is the fundamental uncertainty of future outcomes. Our job isn't to eliminate uncertainty, that's impossible, but to intelligently navigate it.
Okay, so this brings us to our final section, wisdom as the edge. Here we're going to translate this whole philosophy into a practical framework for navigating the fundamentally unstable world that we're all facing today.
Let's be honest, today's markets are shaped by these incredibly powerful structural forces. These are not simple variables that you can just plug into a model. They are complex, interacting feedback loops. Geopolitics, policy distortion, AI, narrative contagion, all of these things make linear, backward-looking models essentially obsolete.
In this kind of environment, the whole source of competitive advantage has shifted. A generation ago, having superior information, that was the edge. Today, information is a commodity. It's everywhere. The real edge, the true edge, lies in interpretation, the ability to filter the signal from this overwhelming noise and then synthesize a coherent view. So this philosophy, it translates directly into a practical 6-step framework. First, analyze the entire system, not just the stock. Second, actively identify what the consensus assumptions are. Third, think in probabilities and ranges, not single-point forecasts. Fourth, read broadly. The best insights often come from way outside of finance. Fifth, deliberately slow down your judgment formation. And finally, number 6, learn to recognize that if an idea feels comfortable and it's widely accepted, it's probably already priced in.
And this brings us to the ultimate conclusion. You know, if I could distill 3 decades of experience into one single idea, it would be this: wisdom, the ability to synthesize diverse inputs into actionable judgment under uncertainty and to act with emotional discipline. That is the only truly durable edge. Because ultimately, models will break, narratives are going to shift, and data will mislead you. But the discipline of better, deeper thinking, that is the one strategy that actually compounds over time. It is by far the most valuable asset any investor can cultivate. So I'll leave you with just one final question to apply to your own work. The next time you're analyzing a position or a thesis, just ask yourself, does this feel comfortable? Does it align with what everyone else is saying? Because if it does, it might be time to start worrying. Thank you.